you self-identify as both a beauty and a beast, the Triarc Tri 11 might be the handgun for you. This is a really cool pistol that I'm glad we get to share with you for many reasons. So let's talk about Triarc first. So they are a Texas-based company located here in Mansfield, Texas, so not too far from us. They do a great job with custom 2011s that are proprietary to them. They build Glocks, they have Zev handguns, they also have some really nice AR platforms. And these aren't just to look pretty or stunt on the gram, they are in the hands of operators all around the world. A lot of the local PD here are carrying their rifles and carbines, and a lot of top tier shooters are running around with guns on their hips or backs. So there's a lot to be said about Triarc as far as, you know, real people putting real rounds down range, and a lot of them are carrying, you know, this product. So I'm glad we get a chance to talk about it because it isn't as well known as some of the other big brands out there, but they will be here pretty soon. But first, let's check out their 2011 handgun. Now, this is a double stack kind of 1911 or 2011, and they are all not created equal. So if you're familiar with 2011s, you know, this is that kind of that based off the 1911 platform, except it's double stacked. You know, most of these do have some type of two-piece frame here that's aluminum or steel, and then a polymer grip. Again, not all are created equal, and these aren't all just parts bin sourced. And what Triarc has really done a good job at is really being the example of kind of hand fit and finish. So these guns aren't quick to make, they aren't mass produced, and you could tell when you're holding it and when you're shooting it. So really they start off with the frame of this gun and kind of work everything into it. And the tolerances on this thing are so good and so smooth and tight. This is a custom gun that you can pick up off of our shelf. So one thing that is kind of in their ethos and their policy when they're building guns is, yes, it's high performance, yes, it shoots fast and flat and all that, and we'll get to that, but the thing has to run first. So even though they look pretty or even though they run fast, it is a duty gun. Go to war with this thing, go to work with it. Whether you're putting rounds down range, if it's a carry gun for you, if it's a home defense, or if you are carrying it every day to protect yours or someone else's life, they want those things to work every time and in any condition. So, you know, that's part of the mentality of some of the things that they did and why they did certain things when they built this, and we'll kind of cover some of that, but kind of starting from the front here. Now, this is a 4.3 inch commander length barrel. So I personally liked the shorter you know, slide and barrel combination compared to the 5 inch, which comes to right about where the end of this compensator is. But you know, whether it's for carry or for looks, I just kind of like that. But you'll see we shoot this a lot with the standard barrel. So the compensator, the suppressor that we have on there, which we'll show you, is a nice added touch, but we'll kind of talk about all those individually. Let's first talk about that barrel. So Triarc has a proprietary, they call it a track system. So it's kind of a hybrid of the way that rifling goes down the barrel. And the reason why they kind of created this hybrid rifle pattern is, one, it puts less deformation on the bullet, meaning it's not going to cut into the bullet as much. It's kind of less friction on it, but it means the bullet is going to actually carry a straighter path out of the barrel itself. And most importantly, it actually traps more gases behind that bullet as well. So if you shoot a lot, or especially if you get into some of the carbines that run a gas system, where this is a blowback system, having that extra gas is important. So if there's a lot of bypass going past the bullet itself, that means it's going to be less gas operating the system. For this, it is really kind of a moot point, but that track rifling goes into all of their barrels. It's accurate, it's very accurate. It's like shooting laser beams. It's reliable, and it's great for gas operated guns. But some of the other options that they have is a threaded barrel and a machine comp. So while I don't think the comp is the best looking, it actually fits the lines of this thing perfectly. It is made to this gun. And one of the best things about it is the fit and finish. I mean, there's no wobble in this. There's no pins or roll pins to tap into place. So this is easy to take off and put on by hand. And as you can kind of see a little close up here, there's a little detent pen too that keeps it in line there. So that's spring loaded, so that's really nice. So moving back to that barrel, this does have a thick bushing on that. So This is more traditional of 1911 style. Does have that Dawson guide rod and spring, so very familiar if you're used to 1911s as far as takedown. The cool thing is no tools needed on this. Springs are easy to replace if needed, but as far as weights and all that stuff goes, you don't really need to tune this thing different. So whether we're running no comp or running a suppressor on it, the thing operated smooth, it runs reliably. So these things are kind of already tuned and sprung appropriately. Kind of going back, keeping in line with that barrel, everything's polished feed ramps, so from the barrel to the frame, everything is polished there. Even things like the way they have the extractors and the way they tune the magazines. I've seen these built in person, and they really go through a lot of pain to make sure that everything's mated up appropriately, function checks, and works with pretty much every magazine, all your ammo. They really want this, again, to run reliably and not just be a picky, fancy gun. So kudos to them. But moving down, the trigger. Now this isn't a competition trigger, meaning it's not 2 pounds, but it's also not heavy at all. I love the profile of this. This is a flat trigger here, so no matter where you put your finger on it, you're gonna get equal pressure. But this is set right around 3.5 pounds. And I mean, it's a clean, consistent break. So, if you know single action only handguns such as this, they have good triggers, and this is no different. So that 3.5 pounds is really good for, if you want, quick shots, you can get quick follow-up shots, but also if you're looking at it for a defensive or a duty application, it's not too light to where you might be, sending accidental rounds down range once that adrenaline gets pumping. But these are already tuned, for over travel, pre-travel, so real good trigger out of the box. But getting back to the kind of the 2011 grip here, the polymer grips are kind of interesting, and there's some science built into it. And the whole reason behind those polymer grips is actually absorb energy. So when the gun recoils back, this actually compresses a little bit. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but it absorbs that energy and it kind of brings it back out to the slide, helping it cycle. So it's kind of a neat idea behind why these things are, polymer lowers and steel upper. But the stippling on this, I really enjoy this. So stippling is kind of one of those, you got to be careful who you send it to, or who does it. It's not as simple as most would like to think, but this feels really good. So I don't have the largest of hands, and I like that this fits my hand really well. So they reduce the grip as much as possible without damaging the integrity of it, so it doesn't deform when you squeeze it real hard, or under stress the magazines still drop freely. If your hand is covered in mud or water or whatever, you still have a really nice texture here. So I really appreciate the stippling job they do on that. With the grips here, this does not have any type of flared magwell other than what's kind of stock there. You can add bigger magwells if you want, but again, this is kind of like a carry duty style. At least that's how this particular one is built for. So we just kind of left that alone there, but easy enough to put on bigger bells down there if you really wanted a big jet funnel or anything like that. So some of the other things that they think about and put in consideration when they're building this gun is just stuff like the safety. So the safety being fully ambidextrous here, easy to operate, but depending on the shooter and who's buying the gun, they can actually kind of trim that to your fit. So if you want a super fat safety, or if you want a really thin one, maybe on one side or whatever, they actually cut each one of these at the time of building them, so they can cut that to your specifications and what you really want. So that's pretty cool. Again, if you want that big safety, easy to hit, and also easy to bump, that's for you. If you want something a little, more streamlined, more slim, so if you are going to carry it or put it in a duty holster, that's really nice to have. Do have a lightweight hammer that they put on here, so these are real nice. They really guarantee some of that reliability. So fast moving hammer, you get that positive impact on the firing pin there. So again, everything that they really do around this is to make sure it goes bang every time. Going back to kind of just disassembly of this thing. So everything is toolless, but when you start taking it apart, you can see all of the polishing, whether it's the barrel, whether it's where the contact points of the frame and slide meet. They spend a lot of time just moving those things when it's just a couple of pieces of cut out billet there. They spend a lot of time working those back and forth to ensure there's no wobble, no play, and tight tolerances. When shooting this, There is a big difference between no compensator and compensator. So that's kind of an argument on its own. Whether you like the way they look or not, it's kind of a moot point. They do work. So in both felt recoil and on camera, you can see that the compensator really works. So this is a 5-port comp. So you kind of have, one up in the middle, 2 at a 45 here, and then 2 on the sides at those 90 degrees. It's preventing the blast up and off to the side. So the sides kind of act like a brake. So you have all these forces, all this gas coming this way, all this force going this way, but that gas is going to hit there and kind of prevent the gun from going backwards. And then all the gas going up is going to keep that nose down. So it makes a noticeable difference here. The recoil impulse on this is kind of interesting. Having shot a lot of 2011s, there's a lot of guns out there that tune their guns a little differently. So there's some guns that run really light recoil springs. So the slide is, if you can move back with a finger, but then they really put heavy hammer springs in there. So they kind of do the opposite on this. This is a little heavier recoil spring. So the slide is a little heavier to operate. Man, it sounds so good. But that's going to help ensure reliability. So if you're out in a dusty area or wherever it may be, you get dirt on this thing, you get mud on it, whatever, it's going to push through that and keep rounds going down range. So that was kind of some of the ideas behind that. But going to the recoil impulse, because of how that's built, it's kind of interesting. So without the comp, you definitely feel a little bit of a snap to it. With the comp, it's virtually all gone. But excluding that right now, the way this recoils, it's so fast. So you feel kind of a quick snap, but the gun gets back into battery, meaning the slide comes forward so fast that it kind of doesn't matter. So if the gun was really snappy and it took a long time, snap back and took a long time to kind of bring it back down on target, that could be problematic. It could just mean your second, third, or your follow-up shots are going to be a little slower. This is just cycles so fast, though. Again, it's kind of a moot point. Like, yeah, you feel that jar, but it's already ready to go by the time your brain registers that. So unlike some other brands out there, other 2011 platforms out there, again, kind of a different way to get to the end result, but it's pretty interesting. So once you kind of get used to that, and it doesn't take long to do, you really like it, and it makes you want to kind of run the gun faster and faster. And then you put the comp on it, and it kind of makes all that recoil go away, but still has that quick back into action cycle to it. So really cool. A lot could be said about this. These things are really meant to go do serious work. So whether you're looking for a duty gun, if you just want something that aesthetically looks beautiful, these things are fully customizable too. So when you can order these guns, you can buy them off the shelf, but they do sell very fast. So most likely you're going to order one. You can choose the type of Cerakote options you want. They have a ton of camo patterns out there, colors. Make up your own and send it to them. They love it, and they'll do your own camo pattern for you. You also tell them what kind of optic you want or do not want, and they'll have a plate there for you, or they'll even come optic supplied. So these are fully customizable, whether it's the type of sights you want, the type of trigger, if it's colors, if it's shapes, if it's weights, they can do all of that custom to you through their order form. So really neat to have this kind of built, a custom handgun built to you that's not just for show, but it's for go. So that's the Triarc Tri 11 in the Commander. They do have some other calibers available too. They do have a 45. They recently just dropped a 10mm, but Lord's caliber is in 9, so we decided to keep going with that one. So if you're new to the 2011 brand or maybe Triarc itself, head on down to the range here. We have a couple of these available to demo. So we have Tri 11s available to rent. We also have some of the Glocks, Zevs, and AR models too. So, it's worth a shot, because these will really kind of challenge your perception of what these platforms are and how good they can actually be. Triarc's done a good job at kind of bending the rules of some of these platforms, and it's definitely worth a look. And if you're in that market for a 2011 or really a duty grade hot rod that you can trust your life to, the Triarc Tri 11 is the way to go. Appreciate you guys. If you have any comments or questions about the gun itself, please throw them down in the comments section. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe, like it, and as always, we'll see you guys on the range.